Out here on this research vessel in the Pacific Ocean, it's easy to believe that the natural world can thrive without our help. Yet the animals that live beneath the surface here are often exposed to dangers of cruelty and exploitation. Now, for one species in particular, contact with humans often results in tragic consequences. One man who knows both sides of the story once trained the most famous dolphin in the world, Flipper. His name is Ric O'Barry, a man who has a very special understanding of dolphins.
That's me more than 30 years ago with Flipper, a beautiful animal who taught me a big lesson about life. Today we know that there's only 3 things that kill dolphins: our fishing nets, our pollution, and our captivity. Captivity kills. I feel somewhat responsible, sure. I captured those dolphins and trained them and used them for 7 years, but we didn't have the information that we have today. Flipper swam up into my arms in a steel tank after the show had ended and actually held her breath and never took the next breath. And in that regard, I call it suicide for the lack of another term. I've turned that tragic lesson into a lifelong mission to do what's right for dolphins who need our help. Today, WSPA reaches out worldwide to save dolphins in trouble, and I'm glad that I could be there to see them make it back into the wild. It's not easy, but it's sure worth it. Take a look.
Their names were Ariel and Turbo, and they were close to death. Confined to a small, man-made pool high in the hills of Guatemala, part of a traveling dolphin show, their trainers had disappeared in the middle of the night, one step ahead of the authorities, and they had taken the water filtration systems with them. Filthy water and no food left the dolphins in life-threatening danger. But Ariel and Turbo began to recover. With the Guatemala government's final permission and logistical help, WSPA took custody of these 2 outstanding creatures. Now the long trip down the mountains and back to sea by helicopter. Once the dolphins were safely in the rehabilitation sea pens, O'Barry spent weeks helping Ariel and Turbo unlearn everything they'd been taught in captivity and relearn how to survive in the wild. All his training and background were put to the test. All of their efforts would come down to whether they would leave their human connection.
We had every reason to believe they'd make it in the wild. They were captured as adults, and they had a lot of experience in foraging, navigating, avoiding predators, and using their sonar.
At the end of the month, the Navy diving team helped WSPA dismantle the sea pens, and O'Barry paddled out with his canoe. Would the dolphins follow him to the sea? Could this really be their freedom at last? Finally, the day had come when Ric O'Barry and his team would release Ariel and Turbo into the wild. But first, he had to lead them to their freedom. Would they follow? Suddenly, in the distance, wild dolphins appear, all calling out to Ariel and Turbo.
This is a very good day.
2 dolphins captured and abused in a traveling show in the mountains of Guatemala, saved from a certain death and nursed back to life by a team of dedicated doctors and experts, volunteers, and team members. Weeks of hard work and real hope had finally paid off.